Hey viewers, today we're going to look at a kind of a strange and I think a really cool looking old rangefinder called the Kodak 35, and I think it's commonly referred to as the 35 RF for rangefinder. I bought it with this giant flash thing. It's kind of a cool unit if you've never seen this before. There's a little lever on the top there. Let me focus on this if I can. So it uses this filament bulb with this crazy, made by GE, this crazy kind of woolly filament in there, and it uses a 22-volt charge to set this off. It's a one-use bulb, and I guess this is how they used to do flash, and all you old-timers or vintage enthusiasts there could probably tell me much more about this, but I do see how it works, and you just actually pop it in, and that little lever on the back that I had to reach around and get kind of throws it out when you're done. So anyway, it's kind of cool, gives you the old, almost kind of press feel, your field photographer, and then it plugs into this crazy prong on the side of the lens. But we'll take this off here real quick to actually examine the camera itself. As cool as that is, it's not really anything too complex or interesting. Let me get this focused right. Anyway, so this is the Kodak 35 RF, which is a coupled rangefinder with separate windows. As you can see, maybe able to see, the speeds go from 200 down to a tenth, and then you have bulb and time. And if you don't know what the time is, it's actually a very cool setting, I think. You don't really see in a lot of these older cameras. And it opens the shutter once when you hit the shutter release, and then it holds it open until you hit it again, at which point it closes. So that'd be a really useful way to do long exposure without a remote release, which you can't really get for this because, as you might have noticed, the shutter release is here on the side. And the funny thing is, you might look at the camera and say, oh, well, this is clearly the shutter release, button, and it's like, why I can't really get to that. That is not the shutter release. When I explain the operation of this, and later the Argus C3, I will explain what those buttons do. But anyway, the shutter button is here in front of the lens, so it's the only good way to demonstrate, but you reach around and hit it. It's actually pleasant enough once you know it's there. So some of the design features of this camera: it's a non-lever wound, and early it's a stop style wind, or that's what I would call it. I'm sure it's a much more accurate name. But what happens is you take the picture, like so, and then what you do is you have to depress this button, and it allows the film to be advanced. So you hit it, and then you turn it, you wind it, and then it winds it, and what it does is actually cocks the shutter, and I'll show you that. As it cocks it, it spins a wheel inside the little toothed wheel, and then once it gets to a certain amount of rotation, it gets stopped again by this mechanism, and then your shutter's cocked, and you have a new frame centered there. And then you take it, and then you push this button and wind it again. So it's kind of a two-step process. And on this camera, it's kind of a pain because this winder, well, I'll show you how it cocks. This winder is really flipping stiff, and it's got the frame dial winder right here, and that gets advanced by the same mechanism. But anyway, let's open it up, and I'll show you what I mean about that windings business. So, oh, that way to open. So this whole back plate comes off, kind of a bakelite window. It's got a really cool like mirror finish on here, you guys. And as you can see, Kodak 135 film. Oh yeah, which is 35 millimeters, kind of more official name. So here's the inside. This does not retract or anything. This is just a machined knob that you use. This obviously loaded in right like so. And so what I was saying about how it cocks the shutter is that it pulls the film over this wheel, and oh, I'd have to hit that button. See, so when you hit the button, it allows this wheel to spin and cock the shutter. The problem is that it takes a lot of force, and it can tear sprocket holes. I can't even wind this with my hand. It hurts quite a bit. But anyway, yeah, that's how it cocks the shutter. You can see the down into the body there, or into the lens assembly. It's really not a terrible system if this was easier to do. The problem is that it's really difficult and takes a lot of force. Moving on to more operational aspects, you have the aperture, which is maximum aperture of 3.5, which isn't bad for the day. I believe this is actually the upgraded model with the larger aperture down to 16. You just kind of slide this along here, and it's mechanically connected. I think we can see it in the back here. There's not enough light maybe, but oh, there we go. You can see that. So you just slide it along. Simple. Can't really argue with that. So anyway, like I was saying, the aperture is simple, usable. It's 5 blades. It's behind the lens, I believe. And the last operational aspect of this camera that's kind of interesting, or at least that might be unfamiliar to a lot of modern camera users, is that it has separate viewfinder and rangefinder windows. And these things are tiny. I mean, you see my thumb. My thumbs are decently big, but they're not huge, and that's flippin' small. But basically, you use this window on the left to focus the camera. You spin this front wheel, which is pretty cool. It couples somehow up to a piece of yellow glass and clear glass up in here, maybe plastic. And when the images from those two align, you're in focus. Then you can pose with this one, and you shoot. And that's about all there is to say. I believe this is from the late 50s. This has a sticker in here saying serviced in 58. I could try to get that up here. Maybe I should run this on autofocus, but I don't really like the noise. Anyway, yeah, 58. So anyway, yeah, this is an old Kodak 35. They're cool cameras. I'm sure if you wanted to go shoot with one, see if there's some way around, like maybe the real sticky or the real high tension winding, and or just live with maybe tearing a few sprocket holes. Not the end of the world. Then you can pick these up on eBay for not too much. Anyway, I hope you have a good day, and this has been a review of the Kodak 35RF.